Yes, actually what I was telling, I saw three main trends, high-level trends. First of all, I see a change in the global hierarchy. So it means that demand, innovation, revenue generation is more coming from the emerging countries than from the mature countries. For a number of reasons. First of all, there are just more subscribers in emerging countries. The second reason is we did a consumer survey in 24 countries, and we noticed that the consumer sentiment in emerging countries is better than in mature countries. You know everything about the debt crisis and the economic crisis for the mature countries. So we see that demand is coming from there. The second thing what we see is that people are, but we see that already for a while, is that people are more communicating over the top, using social networking, using Twitter, instant messaging, and so on. It's something what you see everywhere. What I did also some research in Latin America. In Latin America, they do that also a lot. Mm-hmm. In Latin America, you can see that they are the #1 instant messenger user, which means also something for the telco, right? Because it's over the top. They have to expand their network. So they have to find solutions for that because they do not get the revenue from the over-the-top providers. So they have to invest in new LTE technology and so on. And the third thing what we see, and we also produce a new report from the IBV, is customer advocacy. It has to do something with consumers becoming smarter. They get the information that they really need, not so much from the telco providers, but they get that from internet search. They get it from family and friends, so recommendations. They get it from social media. They get it from blogs, from discussions group. And they do not really go that much to the network of that we say the telco websites, not so much from traditional advertising. Which is maybe an issue for telcos because the consumers, they are talking about the telcos without the telcos really involved in that. So the telcos really have to participate in the social network discussion. So those are the main trends. And if you see that this is really happening, you can ask what should a telco do, what could be the future. It's also what we did a lot of interviews with CEOs, CIOs, CMOs, and they are really troubling with that. They say, well, the world is more volatile, it's more uncertain, it's unpredictable, and so on. So that was the reason that we decided to do a Telco 2015 consumer scenario study, where we identified 4 scenarios, scenarios that can. A telco cannot really decide this is a scenario that we like, but it will be triggered by something external, what the regulators decide, the economic conditions. So where we came up with, we have the survival consolidation is in a situation where consumers are not spending that much anymore. Think about Greece, where from our consumer survey, 61% of the consumers said that they are going to spend less on mobile communications, so it's a problem for telcos, but it's also in Italy, it is in Spain. So they're actually in cash crisis. The only way to survive is survival consolidation.
Consolidation?
Consolidation, survival consolidation. Another scenario, in the same bad situation, where the market is not growing or maybe even decreasing, is what we call the market shakeout. Maybe investors, they force telcos to split the assets. So the assets will not be all in the possession of the telcos, but maybe a network is owned by Ericsson or Nokia, as Bharti has. Bharti in India, they don't have an own network, but they buy capacity for Nokia and Ericsson. You can also sell your towers, because towers are not the core business, those are the things. You see more players, like municipalities, utility companies, governments stepping in where telcos don't invest in infrastructure. So that is a situation where you have more players, it's more fragmented, and it is more important to really focus on the brands. So you take the different services from the assets, you develop an offering with a strong brand, So that is happening in market checkout. In a good market, you have two other scenarios. You have what we call the class of the giants. So you have the telcos, and you have the over-the-top providers like the Googles. You have the device manufacturers like Apple and Nokia. They have one strategy, global strategy. They have one global capex. Their services are the same on a global basis, so they are very strong. So the only thing what telcos can do in that scenario where that happens, and that is actually what we think is happening in the United States, is to work together in all kinds of alliances, like rich communication services, like the wholesale application community and so on. What you see there is that telcos really focus on end-to-end applications in healthcare, in grid applications and so on, and where you really see the mega carriers coming up. And where you also see, for instance, mega carriers from Asian countries, emerging markets like China Mobile, maybe entering the mature markets. And another scenario that can happen, and that is when infrastructure providers, they work together to provide one infrastructure that will be available for everyone who wants to use it, open access, but very intelligent, providing presence information, analytics information, location information. Providing that, of course, to the consumers, providing that also to healthcare applications, healthcare organizations, banks, and so on, even to over-the-top providers like Google. It really stimulates innovation because everyone can have access, it's open access. It's something what you see happening, for instance, in Australia and in Singapore, where the government, also in Australia said, okay, we want to have an infrastructure, a broadband infrastructure to as many people in Australia. So what they are going to do is to expand or to make high-speed broadband available to 92% of the population, and the rest, all the 7%, will be wireless. So this is the future of telecom. So that is something what could happen. No one could really predict, but those are really contrasting scenarios, and which scenario really evolves in a particular country depends on what is really triggering it, the regulators, the economic situation. Well, actually there are three things that operators can do in that context. They can sell their assets, and some countries they will do that. So for instance, in the Bharti case that I just explained, they said, well, okay, we are not having a network, we are just getting the capacity. I understand, for instance, in Colombia that some telcos also just sold their towers to American Tower Corporation. So that is happening. Another thing what you can do is really do outsourcing. So it's still your possession, but you outsource that. And a third thing what you can do is, and that is also what we see in our study, in our survey, is sharing. So for instance, you can share the towers, or maybe the ducts under the ground where you have all the cables with all the telcos. You can even share active networks with all the providers. So it's always very difficult to have a business case for new technology, especially for fiber networks, for LTE. So what you can do in areas where you cannot really have a good business case, what we call the white areas, where you do not have so much consumers, that you see that telcos, they do sharing of active networks. So there are a number of things, and what will happen where, it depends on their particular situation in that area. Well, I think first of all what they have to do, and I think in a number of Latin American countries, at least in Colombia, the government is doing a good job here, is really trying to provide broadband to as many people as possible. So that is something what the government can do. Of course, they can also provide. There was yesterday a presentation from the Minister of ICT from Colombia, explaining how they provide the applications, the tools, the terminals to people who can really use that to start or to expand their business. We even had some people coming from different areas in Broadband who really illustrate that. And really provide all the, in an easy way, so that, first of all, of course, you have to educate people a little bit at least, but it must be such simple that people who just start a business designing clothes or something like that can use that in an efficient way. So these are the things that you really can stimulate innovation, also expand activities in the country, decrease poverty, increase the income of the country, all these kinds of things.